welcome everybody. I'm Brad Swanson. Welcome to Breaking Through with Brad podcast. I am joined today. I'm very humbled to be joined by my dear, sweet friend who I've been getting to know for the last 3.5 years. He is a son, a father, and just happens to be a former UFC champion and UFC Hall of Famer, Mr. Rashad Evans.
What is up, Brad? Long time in the making, my brother.
Dude, 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And then we're having technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Dude, it's hilarious. Well, that's okay. I learn as I go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to have my talk show and all that, but I had producer guys and all that were doing all this stuff, And so it's like now we all have the technology to be able to do it like this is pretty cool, but I'm still learning.
I know that, and that learning curve is real, man. That learning curve is real.
It is very real. It is very real. So the intention of Breaking Through with Brad is, I'm really getting back to what I do in my life is to help people learn how to communicate effectively, to love themselves, and then express that out in the world and have healthy relationships, not just their romantic partners, but just with their friends, everyone out there, right? Business, everything, because communication is so important. And that's how you and I really connected was, through a friend, my buddy Ruben Drones, who was a professional football player and stuff. He put me in contact with you kind of inadvertently because he had sent me to the Umbo thing you guys were doing. You guys were starting your Umbo company and you guys were having that big thing for everybody. And I happened to show up a little bit early and you were there by yourself. And I just came over and introduced myself and I was like, hey, you're Rashad Evans, right? And within like 2 to 5 minutes, you and I were downloading and just talking about real stuff and talking about our awakening journey and our DMT experience that blasted us open and how all that happened. So it was like, it was divine orchestration happening right there. And I asked you, I was like, hey, can we stay in touch? And you were like, absolutely. And I was so humbled and just like honored. And I was like, and then you and I have been talking, off and on for the last 3.5 years, just sharing what touches us and just sharing stuff about ourselves and getting to know each other. So it's been 3.5 years that we've been talking and I'm finally here and I wanted to showcase this. I wanted to, kind of demonstrate to, especially to other men, how do we communicate with each other and do it in a healthy way and actually just become friends, find the people that we vibe with and then be our most authentic selves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the key point, just being your most authentic self and just being you. And, whenever we present ourselves, there's this automatic response to bring the presenter forward. And the presenter is not always anchored in who you actually are. You have the representative that goes out there and speaks your best qualities and everything like that. And not that it's not true, but for the most part, it's not really who you are. It's just, it's just, I guess, who you think people think that you are.
Yeah. I mean, we all put on a kind of a little bit of a front in that way, right? There's some defenses and it's kind of natural, especially it's like we all have that. We've been so conditioned to the people pleasing thing, right? And to wanting to look good dude, even with this interview, it's like, even though you and I talk on the regular, like, we always are on phone. What I find is that when you talk on phone, like because you're not looking at somebody, you're less in your head. Mm-hmm. And so you're able to like be more truthful and just because you're not thinking about what you look like or what they look like or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things, I really am practicing even myself, even though I've interviewed a lot of people in my life. I really want to be my most authentic self and not come from like some sort of like just false place. I want to be as real as I fucking can, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that'll take us into, so the very first time when I met you, we were standing there and I said, you know, I got your information and stuff. We started talking and somehow we got right on the topic of doing DMT and blasting open. You know, I myself had a DMT journey that absolutely just blew me open. I mean, I've had a full on experience with what I would call God, what I call source, because I was with the experience of all what is in just complete bliss. My whole existence disappeared, and that was beautiful. But then a week later, 2 weeks later, I started having these electrical sensations that started surging through me that wouldn't stop. And I ended up in that exact space for 3 years, like nonstop, where the level of energy that was running through me, like it was like being as high as you could ever be on any drug, and I could not come down. So I was, you know, I went to probably 50 doctors. I was hospitalized in the mental facility twice, in literally a carpeted room. Like I went to my worst nightmare, you know, and I went from my talk show, like almost being picked up, like almost millions of dollars in fame, to like 3 months later, I was literally locked into a carpeted room. For real. And I was like, is this even real? Like, what the fuck is happening right now? And I had many conversations with God during that, because I was just like, how did this just happen, you know? But it ended up being, you know, literally the greatest, most transformative alchemy I've ever had. Share a little bit about yours when you were telling me, like, when that happened, because you were sharing about, if I recall correctly, you know, that you had become UFC champion, you know, you highs of the highs, and then something happened, you got hurt or something, and then you went and did this journey and had your own like realization. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my call into the medicine, it came towards the end of my career. You know, I was UFC champ. I fought in the highest stages. I, you know, headlined some great cards, and you know, had my name in lights. And you know, with the highs come the lows. And one of those lows was I blew my ACL out, and it was really the first time I've been injured. So I thought I'd be able to come back right away, but I wasn't able to. And then when I thought my knee was healed, after a year of being out, I signed up to do another fight, and I felt like this was going to be my comeback fight. But then I blew my ACL out again. So now I'm on the shelf for 2 years in my prime.
Was it the same ACL?
Same ACL, same knee. Yeah, because I got a cadaver the first time, and then that didn't take, and then I had to get. I used my my patella tendon the next time.
So I had the same. I did patella tendon too.
Oh, you did? I should have did the patella tendon the first time. I didn't know that your body could reject the tissue and not take it. So that was a wake up call for me. But it was a costly error. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, God, whatever you want to call it, that force that we name it, the point of life is not for these accolades that we collect and we put in a mantle. It's to bring you out. And by bringing you out is to bring out that what you really are. Not who you really are, but that what you really are. And when I went through that experience and, you know, eventually worked my way back up, I was at the tail end of my career because I couldn't feel that connection with fighting anymore. Fighting used to be the ultimate expression for me because it brought me to that place of being uber confident, but then at the same time, you know, very afraid. And riding that emotional roller coaster was pretty much the fight. And every single time I did that, I learned something more about myself. So it was more than just getting in there and physically fighting. The physical
Yeah.
fight, which was the easy part, but it was the mental game that I had to play with myself in order to be able to bring out my best performance. Because after a certain while, when you're competing, uh, you're not even competing against your opponent anymore, and then you realize, you're competing against yourself on the greatest nights that you've had, and then you realize that, damn, I was always competing against myself. So then the whole shift goes in your mind. You're like, okay, well, how do I bring that out of me consistently? And it's stressful because the more experience that you have in that cage, uh, the more you know what could happen, and you know the pitfalls that may come from being in that cage. So where you feel like it'll become easier, it actually gets a little bit more. It gets a little harder, and that's where you really have to start minding your mental garden. And towards the end of my career, I just couldn't feel it anymore. I couldn't feel that come from that place that allowed me to just step into that other part of myself where I was just able to be Sugar Rashad Evans. There was like a block there, and I knew that after a while I lost a few fights in a row, and I'm just like, I knew that I wasn't going to fight my way out of this. You know what I'm saying? It
Mm.
wasn't the physical fight that I had to really confront. It was something inside, and
Yeah, but
that's
when did
that's
that, how did that, but when there was moments where you and I were talking about where you started sharing where that was happening, right? Because it was like, I love that story you shared about, I don't know if you remember this, but I asked that question that day at the thing when I was like, have you ever really dealt with fear? And like, how did you do it?
yeah,
And you talked about when you fought Chuck Liddell that you
yeah.
shared about that.
Yeah, I mean, well, that kind of happened, like, like right as my star was ascending, right when it was right before I came champion. I got that little tidbit from Randy Couture where he told me, on the night that I was afraid the most, he told me, you know, I had to make friends with the worst enemy, and through making friends with the worst outcome, the worst enemy, I was able to really get to the part of allowing myself to be free, where I could just completely let go and allow the art to flow through me. And
Mm,
that's the thing about fighting that a lot of people really don't understand from just a voyeuristic point of view, is the fact that the fight is really getting to the point where you can just kind of surrender, and
mm,
you just say, you know what, you know, whatever will be will be, and you just accept it for what it is, and you trust and you believe that you've done and you prepared yourself, and you just in total surrender. Because when you're in total surrender, you're going to allow yourself to take the risk that are necessary to win a closely contested fight. And I would get little tidbits like that along the way, and that was part of the growth in competing that I missed the most when I was out, and that was part that I really kind of lost my way with, because I was so mentally blocked, and not even just mentally blocked, but it was just like an emotional constipation. There's a
yeah.
lot of things that I just didn't process, that my life was moving so fast, and there were some situations, that brought me to a place where I realized that the world that I thought I I believed in, it really wasn't what I thought it was to be. And that realization was kind of the kind of crack in the screen that allowed me to just really, you know, open more of what it was trying to show me. And when I decided to do the medicine, a good friend of mine, Dale Jolly, he recommended it. And um, upon doing the medicine, the 5-MeO, it just completely just rocked my world and really shown me truly what existence is. And
And what was that for you?
what was it? I mean, it was essentially just, showing me the essence of what I am, not who I am, but of what I am. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of the focus of our our journey here on Earth, as far as living in society and the things that we go through. Everybody's like, I want to figure out who I am. I want to figure out who I am. And there's a level that you go so deep, you realize that who you are is not the question, is what you are is the real question.
Yeah.
Because when you figure out what you are, then everything else comes in perspective. Like like there's a Bible verse, not even a Bible. Yeah, Jesus says, like, seek ye first kingdom of God, or kingdom of heaven, and all will be added unto you. And once you figure out the what, all else is added unto you, because you realize the divine connection that we all share. And even speaking about it,
Mhm.
it's hard to really encapsulate what that truly means, and the degree in which we're all connected, because in this reality of duality, separation is the primary reality, right? Separation. And to have a complete paradigm shift where you see
Yeah.
that all is one, it blows your mind. Like, I
Yeah.
can say this to somebody, all is one. They're like, yeah, okay, I understand it. And they could understand it from a conceptual point of view. But it's another thing to experience it and to remember it, because we all know this, but when we've come here, we've forgotten. And we're a being that has gotten amnesia. And
Yeah.
it's by design, right? It's by design. It's by way of having this experience. Like, you know, it's part of the ego. And people think when you say ego, it's like a bad thing. Oh, I'm having an ego trip. No, the ego, it gives me this perspective, right? The I is the essence of what I am. But then, you say it every single time when you introduce yourself. I am Rashad, right?
Yeah.
I am is the being that connects us all.
Yeah.
Rashad is the ego, is the one that's having this experience that could, that has the story, that has, all these things. But when you tap into that I am space,
Yeah.
it blows your mind, because it's nothing like how you imagine it would be.
Right.
It's so much more and so much better, and it's something that's truly indescribable. It has to be, it has to be remembered. And
Yeah.
that's what is, that I found is the most important part of really um, speaking about my experiences, is getting people to realize that there's something in them that that needs to be investigated a little bit more.
First of all, having that embodiment and having that realization, like for me, that love is real, right? Whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
that word, but it's like having that experience in my own heart where I'm just filled up with love, joy, gratitude, right? Gratitude's like the main thing. So last night I was watching Matrix Resurrection, and that, if you, I don't know if you've seen, have you seen that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so it was really poignant because I've seen all the Matrix, and the Matrix movies. One of them, the first one, was like obviously one of the ones that started when I started awakening back in when I was like 26 years old. And but last night the resurrection, it's all about that. It's like we got all the bots, and every single thing right now is trying to trick us, right? It's to get us to check in with our ego, to distract us. It's all fear, right? The whole world, right? With everything that's going on. And so when I was watching it last night, I was like, it really is what's happening, is that whatever if this is a simulation, if this is a matrix, like it's something to me, I'm like, it's some kind of thing. Cause I've had my own deja vus and stuff like that, where I'm like, a lot of this is somehow, like, I don't care if that's what it is. I just realize I'm not going to live from fear anymore about it, like at all. So like, even if the floor dropped out from underneath me, I might be surprised for a second, but then I also wouldn't be surprised. I'm like, what I'm here to do is like demonstrate love and communication and connection, so that other people and other beings can feel that frequency and maybe like dissolve whatever ego or pain body or whatever they have going on, so that they too can feel that same oneness, right? The same oneness, the love and the joy. Because to me, life is really about joy. Like, after what I went through with my Kundalini, I made a promise to God, because I mean, I was in suffering like every day for nonstop. And I really was like, if I ever come out of this, I was like, I will never go back to any bullshit, like nonsense. And so to me, and I really haven't, that was like 12 years ago. And I mean, do I still have like rough days and challenging days? Yes. But the actual suffering that I used to create, like on my fucking own, I stopped doing that.
Yeah. And that's the part about, the integration of the medicine that can be difficult to go through, is because, it's like you're dropped in the middle of the ocean, and it's up to you to kind of figure out like what it means. You know what I'm saying? You're a raindrop that is now in the ocean, and that just realized that, damn, I was never just a raindrop. I've always been the ocean. But then what am I? And when you start to really remember what that is, it blows your mind. It blows your mind, and it blows your mind in a way that makes integrating that here in the reality of duality hard to do, because it's a concept that can't be understood with the mind.
Right.
You can say it, and someone like, yeah, I get it, but you can't get it by my words. Right. That's the thing about it. There is no getting it by anything that I'm saying. Even if you studied it, and you understood it, and you went and did it for years, you can't get it that way. And that's the part that is truly the rebirth of who you are, or what you are, is when you remember. And when you have that integration, it's hard, because everybody, like, there really is no guide to that integration. And for me, what that integration was like me breaking up with the world that I thought that I knew. And I remember after that experience, I sat in my backyard on my back patio for probably about, I want to say almost a year. I would just sit there for hours and hours and hours, just sitting there, looking out at the sky, looking off into the distance at life, like just breaking up with the world. And it wasn't it was painful at times, to be honest, but it was painful when I didn't really know that that it was all going to be okay. Like when I really started to realize that, you know what, that's okay. It's okay that, because, but the hard part was, it was realizing the mistakes that I made along the way. You know what I'm saying? That was the hard part, because when you know better, and then all of a sudden you just like, you kind of look back at your past and you just kind of cringe. You know what I'm saying? At some of the mistakes that you made when you just didn't understand or didn't know.
Yeah.
So that part was hard for me, but there's something on the other side of that is worth it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's worth going through, because once you go through it, there's a peace that comes over you that there's nothing that can touch. Of
That's
course you may get stressed out here and there, but once you feel that perfect stillness, that perfect peace, that everything but no thing all at one time, that love that connects everything, that love is beyond words can explain. The word love don't really truly
right.
encompass what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's out of this world, literally.
Yeah.
It's literally out of this world. And once you anchor yourself in that, you realize that it was all love. And as crazy as it may sound, and no matter how difficult your life is at this present moment, everything is going to be okay. And
Yeah.
when you know that, it changes everything.
Yeah. So how has that impacted you as a father? I shared with you last year, I almost lost my dad. Like he came within minutes of passing away. And I know you lost your dad when you were 17, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we talked about that. And it's like, how has that impacted you, like as a man, but also as a husband, but also as a father, in the way that you are now interacting with your kids and
It
just
impact.
your life?
Yeah, it impacted me in profound ways. Just because it's amazing at self reflecting, right? And you really get to really look at yourself and analyze um, the way you approach things. And with kids, you have to understand how to approach them, and you can't. And you really have to know them, and know how they think, and how they work, in order to really um, approach them in a way that reaches them. Because I know a lot of times people try to have a blanket way of, this is how it is, and they want to reach their kid like that. And even though they may be 100% right on the aspects, or why they're trying to reach their kid, but sometimes, they try to get through them the way it was given to them, and that may cause some resistance. And what you're saying to them doesn't go through, not because it's not correct, but is because you're not reaching them in the way that they can be reached. So, there's, but with that, it takes some trial and error, and it takes really getting to know your kid, and it takes a level of patience that um, sometimes may not look like it's going the way that you want it to. But one thing that I do know is that when you honestly communicate with your kid, it it allows a barrier to be broken down, and it allows them to trust more of what you're saying. But the thing is that no matter how much you try to um, tell your kid as far as the pitfalls and what to avoid, this, that, and the other, they're gonna make the mistakes. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, you just hope that it's not too bad of a mistake. But at the end of the day, you know that they're gonna make them, because store-bought sense is better than anything. You know what I'm saying? When you pay for that lesson, it hits different, you know. And as a parent, you want to make sure they don't make any of those mistakes, but you know, you can't bubble wrap their life, and you got to really just trust in that you gave them a good foundation, that they're going to make the right decisions. And that's what the whole game is about, is that as a parent, once you really settle into the fact that even though you created these beings, they're not yours. You know, they're arrows that you're firing off and hoping that they hit their target in life that they decide. You know what I'm saying? So you just hope that you just raise good people, and that's just been my focus, just hoping that I raise some good people. You know, I've made some decisions in my life that have definitely affected my children, and there's nothing I can do to go back and rewrite those things. I only can try to do better going forward, and really trying to just be honest to them, you know, and really making a lesson out of things that I didn't do right. And that's okay, you know?
Yeah, the thing I noticed is, like, I don't have kids myself, but I help raise my 3 nephews and my niece. And I've practiced this with them. Like I've always talked to them like they're adults. Like I've always communicated with them, and my nephews are in their 28, 22, 24 now, and they're in these healthy relationships, and they're super thankful. They just told me recently, they're both just like, Uncle Brad, thank you for the way you've always communicated with us, because you always treated us as an equal. You always held us accountable, but talked to us like an adult. And, what I noticed is it creates less resistance, because we're not talking down to another being, even though they're younger. And that's because that always drove me crazy too, when anybody was kind of trying to come at me like, like I know better and I know best and that kind of thing, And so it's just, again, it's us understanding that as men, especially, and how important that is as we're communicating with young people, that, we respect them, that because everybody feels respect. Like if you don't have respect, you fucking feel it. I don't care how old you are.
You do.
How did losing your dad, like, how did that change you?
It was something very difficult at the time, being 17 years old and really just not having the emotional intelligence on how to deal with something like that. I struggled for a while, and I transmuted the pain into competing, and it was my fuel for a while, for a long time. But then it reached a point where, life, because I had some resentment, right? And that resentment caused me to, not see my father the way in which, life may have been for him from his perspective, right? I was locked into my perspective so much that I didn't really understand what he may have been going through until I became a father. Like the saying goes, it doesn't become apparent until you become a parent. And as I started going through life and having relationships and, having my children, my career and all those things, I started to really understand more and more about my father's journey. And it was almost like he was teaching me from the grave, and through all of that, I was able to forgive him, and really just, forgive myself in a lot of ways too. And that really changed my my spirit towards competing, because I wasn't coming from that angry place anymore. The fuel was a bit different, and I was okay with it. I mean, fighting. They say fighting solves nothing, but for me, fighting solved a lot. It became the place where I first began to heal.
Yeah. It's like that competing, right? As men, whether it's sports, whether it's fighting or sometimes football or just anything where we're really competing. It's like pushing in that physical energy and all of that. Cause I actually, I started to learn to box maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. I'd never ever done that. And just that alone, I was so blown away at how difficult it is and how technical and like the level of energy it takes. And then, so it's like a lot of the guys I work with and stuff, I always tell them, like one of the physical ways that they can start moving energy is I'm like, go take a boxing class, like go box, go do that, because we can sit here and talk all day about theories and all this stuff, but it's a lot of times it's actually like pushing that energy out, physically hitting something safely, right? Like go and hit something that's safe to hit, yell at something safe to yell at. Let this energy out. I went to, I had messaged you when I went to that Sacred Sons men's group like a year and a half ago up in Canada. And that's one of the things I really loved was that it's all men. And then so there's a lot of communication and stuff, but it's like this really sacred thing. But then you also do these physical things with each other. You have to do these physical things. And there was fighting. So we did fight and all of it. And it was so incredible to see how everybody would hold space for the other two men fighting. And they would throw down until basically we couldn't move. And then everyone would have this big, like, emotional release.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, we have a tendency to look at fighters in a rarefied space, but in reality, to live is to fight.
Yeah.
That's like everybody's a fighter. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The fight just builds up in me to the point where I physically manifest it and go out there and fight, right? I physically go out there and do it. But at the end of the day, the fight, like I was saying before, has never been with me and my opponent. It's always me against myself. That's where the first fight begins. And that's the most important fight. And when I've lost, that's the fight that I've lost. I've lost that fight first, So it's all about truly winning the fight within yourself. Now, depending on what you do in life, what does that look like? Does it look like you waking up early and doing the extra thing that's going to make sure that whatever your focus is, you're the absolute best at? And it's doing the hard thing, right? It's doing the uncomfortable thing. It's doing the thing that's going to overall be painful and everything else like that. But there's something beautiful on the other side of that discipline that's going to require you to become your best self and to really tap into that part that makes you uncomfortable, that makes the fight hard for you, and that's what I enjoy doing now. Like, I don't compete, but I'll tell you what, four times of the week or 5 or whatever, I get the time, I'm going to lock myself in a garage and I'm going to hit that bag until the bag quits. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what I do. And it gets hot. It gets hot in that garage. It's like, it's in Florida heat. You know what I'm saying? I got no ventilation in there. No airflow. So it's a hot steam room. You know what I'm saying? It's like Bikram's yoga or something like that. So, it gets crazy in there and it brings me to that point where I want to quit. But then I start playing that game with myself like, oh yeah, if you're going to quit, you're going to quit and everything else in life. And then I just keep on going until that feeling goes away. And that's what that fight is. But we all have that in us. We all know, and each of us know, and everybody who's watching this knows that place that they don't want to go. The place that's just not comfortable for them to go, and they dread it. And when you feel that feeling inside, that's where you need to go.
Yeah.
That's what you need to push through, because that's that fight within yourself, and that's the most important fight of all.
Absolutely. one of the things that I do on the regular is the cold plunge, right? The ice plunge.
Yeah.
And that, so I was fortunate enough. When I lived in LA, before Wim Hof became like super famous, I took his class and when he was totally unknown. And that was the beginning. But then all these years later, I kept doing it. And the cold is that for me. You know, there's other modalities, but like when I go in like in the middle of winter when it's like 10 below zero and I go put myself in that lake, it is a brain switch because I'm like, I want it as cold as possible. I want this to be as painful as possible. And I'm going to stay in as long as I can. And I know it's going to be painful. And I've had so many people come that are doing it now because we're all like, what I've realized is that when you can push through something like that, you're discovering new levels of strength within yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a physical thing that you're actually doing that you are then now trusting yourself because you're like, I'm going in balls all the way, as fucking as hardcore as it can be in this moment, and then I'm getting out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It starts to create that trust because you're like, it's mind over matter, right? Like it's literally like, you know, I'm standing there. I went out there last winter and it was like, whatever, 11 below zero. It was 9 o'clock at night. I was by myself and it is on the radio. They're like, you know, have 2 layers on, don't go outside. And I'm like taking my clothes off and I'm like, and I'm just like, boom. And it's just like, like the pain, shock, right?
Yeah.
And it's like starting to get excited about that, what you're talking about, that kind of pain, that kind of thing that we can self-induce in a good way that strengthens us internally.
That's exactly what it is, because no matter what it is in life, it's embracing that suffering. And when you embrace that suffering, there is no fight. It's actually the opposite. It's a surrender. And that's the part that makes it so hard and makes it so hard to deal with, is because your instincts is like fight, fight, fight. And even in life, the mantra is like fight hard, never give up, and all this, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the truth of the matter is like, it's all about surrendering. It's all about surrendering. And when you realize that that is the lesson, that's the lesson life has been trying to teach me, because every single phase that we go through in our life, it gets harder and harder. And the reason why it gets harder is because you gotta let something go. You gotta surrender something, and surrendering is always the hard. Ending a relationship, you know, the unforeseen situation where somebody passes on, or, you know, losing a job, or any kind of loss in general, or even just, you know, graduating and, you know, that transition in life, whatever it may be, it brings on that feeling of end. And that right there is suffering in itself. You know, you feel that suffering, but it's like when you surrender to it, there's something so liberating about it, where you just like, you feel untouchable, because you know that, hey, I'm down to suffer. Matter of fact, I make myself suffer quite a bit. You know,
it's different though. It's different though when we do it intentionally like that than when it's subconscious and we're just suffering needlessly, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, so when you're suffering needlessly, it's because it's attached to a fear, right?
Yes.
So when you're suffering needlessly, is because you're suffering because you're trapped into the fear and you haven't surrendered. Yeah, that's what makes you suffer, is because you haven't surrendered, and you're sitting there fighting and thinking, I need to be strong, I need to do this, I need to do that, and you have your whole idea about how you should approach it, but then life shows you that, yo, just relax. You know what I'm saying? You gotta surrender to it, and then when you surrender to it, you're just like, oh man, it's so much it's so much easier. And then the solution to it all, it kind of comes crystal clear. And it comes crystal clear because you've already made friends, as Randy Couture told me, with the worst outcome.
Yeah. And you made friends with it, and you ended up literally knocking him out.
Literally. Yeah.
Like, one of the, at the time, like the scariest dude ever, and you knocked him out.
I know. Yeah. I think about that moment quite a bit, and that was the moment for me that was my defining moment. And not so much, albeit it was a beautiful knockout, but
it was
not just for the way it ended, but just that was really the first time that I really felt that free in the cage, where I was like, oh man, this is, I'm here. There's no other place that I'd rather be than right here, than right now. And being in that space of being in that zone where you're just so connected to each and every single second, it's a divine place, because in the moment of presence, where there's no afterthought and you're just in the present moment, you're in eternity. You feel that space of when you're in that light, in that forever place where you just kind of like,
but the thing is, but it's very similar to like even how I've named my whole thing is Breaking Through with Brad. Like all my coaching is because you have to have the breakdown first to have the breakthrough, and you have the fear, you had the insane fear the day before, right? You were in it, you communicated it, you sat with it, you felt it, released it, and then you fucking handled it. Right? So it was that process.
Yeah,
so
it was.
Like, you came to that freedom because you actually sat with your fear.
Yeah. Yep. And honestly, that's something that, I still do, and that's the thing, like there is no arriving, right? There's no I arrived. It's always a place like when I tell people about my journey, they're like, oh well, you're supposed to be like this because you have this understanding, and it's like, but I'm still arriving. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never
every day.
I haven't mastered it. I'm arriving, and the thing about it is the fact that I don't want to get to the destination. I don't want to get there yet, because I know that there will become a time where I do, go back to what I truly am, right? I do go back to that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm gonna just, enjoy this experience, because what I've learned is that enjoying this experience is getting lost in it. It's the hide and seek, right? It's the ultimate hide and seek, because there's like if you're a being that lives forever, there's nothing better than rediscovering that over and over and over again. And the feeling of rediscovering what you truly are, it is the absolute best feeling in all existence. And even though you may say, I'm never going to forget, I'm always going to remember, you'll remember for the most part, but there's a piece of you that will forget again.
Yep.
And when you rediscover, you're just like, and you cry all over again, and you just like, dang, this is amazing. But it's we're supposed to get lost in the duality.
Yeah. And that's the whole point, is like living from this new place of curiosity, like really being curious and discovery, and I use a quote. Somebody said the quote, it's like, I know what I know, but I also know I don't know shit. And that's pretty much what I live every day in that paradox. And the other thing too, is that you almost that same swing, you almost, well, again, this is one of those moments, you almost knocked out John Jones. And he said, the hardest he's ever been hit was by you. And you came like this far away from knocking him out, you know? And it's that same free swing, bro.
That's it, man. I've had some unbelievable experiences in that cage, you know, moments that will forever.
1-to-1, like, what is forget all of the spiritual stuff. What was your favorite fight, whether you won or lost? Your favorite fight, if you had one?
Man, that's a hard question. Just because so many of these fights that I had, they brought me closer to truly knowing myself. And but if I was to say, I would say it was a Chuck Liddell fight, just because, like I was saying before, it was one where I learned the most about myself and really learned to compete from a space that I didn't, know I had or know that I really could compete from. Hold on one second. That was a great one. But there, out of all of my favorite fights or my favorite moments in the cage, there's no greater moment than the moment I overcame my opponent. And it's not when I got my hand raised. There is this subtle energy that happens inside the cage where you can feel your opponent just break. You can feel it. And at some point, he's thinking one thing: I gotta survive. And that to me was always my favorite moment, because it brought such a feeling of just like yes, like this is what I'm really here for, and having that feeling, that it made all the sacrifice worth it.
Yeah. That reminds me of, it's like warriors, right? Like, we as masculine men, as warriors, it's like the movie 300. That movie is one of my favorite movies. And it's, these guys who train and train and train to be the most fierce warriors, and to not be afraid of anything, right? Like it says, instead of fear, it's a heightened sense of things, And it's that heightened sense of things where I think we're really learning to live from, at least for me as a man now, because it still is with intention and it's still with love, right? But love doesn't have to be, love isn't soft. Love can be clear as fuck.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Love gets a bad rap in a sense where it's painted as like something that isn't as strong as it is.
Right.
Like, love is the strongest force. There is no force stronger than love.
Right.
And when you feel the divine existence from where love began, it will blow your socks off. You're not even gonna believe it. You're not even gonna believe it. Like, you're not gonna believe it.
Yeah.
Because it's such an overwhelming feeling that you just realize that, damn, it's literally all love.
It's all love.
It's all love. It's literally all love. And
I know.
And when you feel that, you just like, there is no force. You almost feel like a infant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just cradled in that the force of that love. Just cradled in it, swaddled in it. Like, damn, this was all around me this whole time, and I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
I was blinded to it.
Yeah. So when we first talked, like, share a little bit about, I told you what I did, and you were talking about how communication was so important, and how if you had known more, you may not have gotten divorced. and you may have
Mhm.
like that, like, and how has that changed your relation and your relationship now, and how you are as a man and as a husband, like what that whole process.
Well, I mean, you know, it's basically just about, for me, just being a little bit more forgiving,
Mm,
and to be a little bit more patient, a little bit slower with my tongue and actions,
mm,
and to really remember that there's a real person on the other end. Because sometimes we in
yeah.
our relationships, we create an idea of our partner or anybody we're in a relationship, and it's like a highlight of some of the things here, some of the things there, the highs and the lows, and out of that we come with this idea of who they are. And of course they're a lot like the idea of who they are, but they're also not like the idea of who we say they are, right? Or who we think they are.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that. And it's important to um you know like, it's important to just check in with them and be like, and honestly, be vulnerable. Don't always try to be right. And that's what I would say was my biggest lesson, was just like, I was always trying to be right, and even trying to be right, I was wrong, because being right isn't always being right. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
being right, it's wrong at the end of the day if it's not right for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And you can still be anchored in truth and still not try to be right. Being anchored in truth is understanding that maybe imprinting your truth or giving your truth is not always best for the situation, and
Yeah.
it may make things worse. And I'm not saying that you need to be fake, but you have to have a little bit of discernment when people
Mm,
are in a space where they can receive what you're saying.
absolutely.
Sometimes when we get in a place where we feel passionate about something, we want to just like give it to that person right now, that at that moment. And at that moment, they're not even ready to receive anything you're trying to say. And you could be saying some dope shit, right? You could be really saying something that resonates and something that really makes sense, but because they're in a certain state, they can't even receive it. So then now you're battling, and the battle isn't even about what it's truly about.
It's not
And
even
then before
real.
you know it, you're caught in a fight that you're really not even fighting. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
before you know it, ego gets in the way, and the relationship gets destroyed, and you know cooler heads prevail, and you realize that, damn, maybe if I wasn't this way or that way, I could have been able to get to him to see this way. But it's part of life, and it's actually the unfolding process. Um, had I not gone through those situations, I may have not been brought to that place where I had to fall on my knees and really seek, what was truly inside of my closet,
Yeah.
and to really go to that place where the suffering is, and not turn away, not make excuses, and just really just deal with it.
Yeah. It's about having humility, and also, like you said, discernment, right? It's like
Yeah.
really having discernment for specific situations. And for me, it's what I've learned is like going slow, like having a lot of patience. Like because whenever I get excited or I'm trying to force something, that's when I breathe and I go, wait a second, like, why am I trying to force something? Let me back up and breathe for a minute. And like you say, like, make sure I'm not just trying to be right.
Yeah. I mean, like when I first went through my experience, and I felt like I woke up in the middle of my life, right?
Yeah.
And I felt as if, like, man, if everybody could see what I seen, things would be different. Things would change.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. And I truly believe that. I feel like, if people truly remember, then that remembering will bring us back to one, right?
Yeah.
It's the second coming of the Christ.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But everybody's not ready to yet. That's the truth that I had to really sit with. And I just kind of settled into that, and not as not like something that I resigned to, but something that I kind of understood as maybe it's necessary. It's necessary for each person to go through their own process and have their way of realizing themselves in the dream of what we call reality.
Yeah. 100%. I'm the same. I mean, that's where it's like, that's why we're having this conversation, right? And that's why I said at the beginning, like, I want this to be the exact right moment for the exact right people who are wanting to see this conversation, and maybe it triggers something in them. Because the only way I know to do it is to be the mirror reflection, right? To share our own personal experience. That's all we have. And we can only do it really by words and our being, our essence, right? And our energy. And then hopefully that keeps growing and growing and growing to where, like, I think there could be an awakening on the planet. There has to be enough people where they're done suffering and not being tricked and conned and manipulated anymore, for all of us to sit in the quiet at times and go within, because that's where we don't get quiet. We're not distracted by our phones or by relationships or money or this or that or whatever, right? And but that's the whole point, is at the end of the day, it's up to each one of us. We're the only ones who can do it within ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the hardest part too. Is to come to the realization that no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
And for a lot of religious people, that is a statement that it ruffles their faith in ways that they will be, they feel certain kind of way about that, because
absolutely,
we've been told about the Savior.
Yeah.
But what if the Savior means something else? What if it means something that's a lot that goes beyond that which can be written down to the point where, like, I could tell you that there's something inside of you that you really should check out, that will blow your mind, but only certain people will even really listen to what I'm saying or really try to go deep within themselves to do it, because in order to do that, it takes you confronting yourself in a lot of different indoctrination, and confronting that is not for the faint of hearts, because it's a very uncomfortable thing. It's very uncomfortable, but
that's right.
Most people reach that point where they feel something breaks them down, right? That's why it's you have that low moment where you brought down to reality because everything is so low, and that low brings you to a place where, you know, it opens you up, right? Because you have no place to go. But Will
Yeah.
Smith talked about something else where you are high and you've been to the highest places and there's nothing there. It's not what you thought it would be, and there's nothing fulfilling in it, right? So the same thing is true for both of those, polarized, perspectives. But at the end of the day, it's all meant to do one thing, which is to make you search within you. Some people feel it's a taboo thing to even say, I'm gonna search within myself.
Yeah.
But when you truly are forced to first search within yourself, there's nothing more divine than the space that you find when you go inside. There's nothing more divine.
Just to piggyback on that, it's 100%. I agree with you, and that's the, for whatever it is that in you chose it, right? Like your soul chose that and knew it. Mine did and chose it. Whatever other people, I have some, I have a handful of good friends and stuff who are really truly taking themselves apart and really seeking. And, wanting to remove all obstacles, right? And just come back to really to love and to joy and what this experience is. Cause I'm like you, it's like after what I went through, I'm just really in gratitude every day. I'm in gratitude. Yeah. Like I say, the mundane is magnificent. The mundane is magnificent. So like I have dinner with my mom and dad and we just hang out. I get up, I have my coffee on the deck, I puff on my cigar and I'm just like, man, all these simple things I just really enjoy. I really enjoy life.
Because it's truly the blessing, man. It's truly the blessing. Like, I lost a friend a couple days ago. He passed away from cancer. His name was Andy. This dude battled cancer for 20 years. 20 years he battled cancer. And throughout that time, he never stopped living his life. Yeah. He really, even in his battles, like he would do chemo, he'll come to the gym, he'll get pieces removed out of him to slow down the growth of cancer. He'll be in the gym a couple weeks later. And, no matter what the situation was, he was going to the gym. And I feel like, in a big way, being around fighting and staying anchored to the fight was how he lived and he survived for so long and really broke records with his fight with cancer. But, he was a very, very, well-off, guy. And to watch him just in my last, visit with him, just seeing the world of appreciation. You know what I'm saying? We went out on his balcony and the way he looked at that sunset, the way he smiled looking at it, and it was just, you just seeing that, like, he was devouring it, you know what I'm saying? And just appreciating it from a place where, we kind of take for granted. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people, they look at the things that we have in existence and they just kind of, they shrug it off and they don't really pay attention to just the magnificence of the sun, the stars, the moon, all of it just being so divinely placed, and everything working the way that it does is just a thing of beauty that it goes beyond words, I mean, when you look outside and you just behold the true, like the Son of God, the S-U-N of God, that is the Son of God, and just like, man, what if that is truly the Son of God? Yeah. And how many times have we forsaken the Son of God? You know what I'm saying? some people don't even revere the sun. They run from it. They, they don't want anything to do with the sun.
Yeah.
It's bad. And
Yeah.
it's like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I just got a different appreciation, and I'm grateful for that.
Me too. With that, would you care if you sent me a poem a while back? Would you care if I read your poem?
Oh man. Which one is it gonna be? Which one are you gonna read?
Hang on. Well, this is the one you sent me. Hang on.
All right.
Just because it's literally like perfect with that. It's Children of the Light.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that okay if I read it?
Yeah, you can read it. Yeah.
So you sent me this, I don't know, it was a few months ago, and you were just like, hey, brother of the light, I've been writing lately. And I was like, cool, send it to me. Okay, so this is your poem, Children of the Light. We searched for God in sky and stone, in temples built and thrones of bone, but never thought to look inside where silent flames and stars reside. We crowned the flesh, forgot the fire, traded truth for law and choir. Yet still the whisper speaks below, you are the light you long to know. Not a symbol, not a dream, but literal light, a living beam, so vast, so pure, it cannot dim, even clothed in fear or drowned in sin. This light, your ancient hidden name, was buried deep beneath the shame. The world forgot, but not the flame. It waits in you, it burns the same. The teachings try to show the way, but words and rituals can only say what silence screams when all else fails. The kingdom's here, you've left the veils. We are the Christ returning now, not with crowns or sacred vow, but in the stillness, soft and clear, where spirit says, I've always been here. He came not just to die or rise, but to reveal what lives inside, that you are light behind the skin, the soul that never did begin. You'll do greater things, he said, not to praise, but raise the dead, awareness in us, souls asleep, forgetting what we're meant to keep. For every torch must light anew, and every soul must walk it through. The fire, the fall, the sacred ache, before the light in them can wake. Man bumps through darkness, lost, confined, believing lies of space and time, forgetting that the light within was always meant to rise again. We were never just flesh and dust, but waves of light, the stars entrust. And the ether, our ocean wide, still holds the soul we left inside. The formless one, beyond all form, has watched us through each rise and storm. The witness waits, the watcher sees, behind your breath, beneath your knees. So come home, child of living flame. The time for hiding has no name. The veil is thinning, don't delay. You are the light, you are the way. Not born to follow, fear, or strive, but to awaken, burn, and thrive. To love without a need to prove, to speak in silence, walk in truth. This is the gospel not yet preached, the kingdom not in words but reached. When man lets go of flesh and fear and sees the Christ already here, no need to wait, no sky must part, the second coming is your heart. So shine and say what God once spoke, let there be light, and you awoke.
Let there be light and you awoke.
You awoke. That's fucking dope, dude.
That's how it is. That's how it is.
That was so perfect with everything you just said.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, it resonated with me that deep.
Yeah. That was nice, man. That was nice.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I'll be writing, man. I'm gonna I've been writing on just putting some of my writings together. And I'm gonna compile them into a book.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna it's like some poems like that, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm gonna do it, man. But I think we can end on that note, man. I think we can end up on that note.
I just want to say thank you so much, brother.
No problem, bro.
This was so fun. I'm so glad we got to do this finally. Thanks for taking the time.
No problem, brother, man. I love you, man. Take care.
I love you, brother. Okay.
All right, peace.
You good.